with a couple of introductions for some of the veterans. I wanted to make sure that we recognize Tim Grenvik. Tim, is he there? He's back over here hiding, and he told me that he didn't really want to stand up because he's too much of an eye candy for everybody. And I'm thinking to myself, okay. However, he was going to introduce his assistant. He has his wife Lynn with him, and she probably has died spoiled rotten, so his eye candy might be a little bit rotten. But anyway, you have an assistant named Tom, and his last name is what? Tom Jackson? And where's he at? Is he here tonight? No? He didn't make it down tonight. Okay. Well, anyway, we want to recognize them because Tim is the Siskiyou County Veteran Service Officer, right? Is that right? Okay. And he's here the second Thursday of each month at Happy Camp at the Resource Center. So if you need some veteran services, that's a good place to go for it. I did want to recognize again Buster Atterbury, who is the tribal chairperson. So Buster, you want to stand up and be recognized here? And Bud Johnson is one of the tribal council members. Bud, we know you're here, huh? Yeah, you're here. Okay. So let's get remember, we want to thank you for allowing us to have this meeting tonight, this activity here tonight. And I don't know whether John's finished eating dinner or not. You finished, John? No. Yes. Sheriff Lopey has a veteran, military all the way around, and also he is now our elected sheriff. From a personal point of view, I don't think we could have asked for a better sheriff. He stepped in and has done some really good things in our county, and I really have appreciated everything that he's done as far as setting the stage for bringing some constitutional law back into the area. So I appreciate that. I'll read some of the stuff. He cut it down to about 1/4 of what I had on here because it's the yellow part that I'm going to read for those of you who don't see it. Anyway, he's 58 years old. He's a veteran of the Marine Corps and the Army Reserve, as well as a former Vacaville police officer and assistant chief for the California Highway Patrol. On his 18th birthday in 1972, he enlisted in the Marines, and in just a few months later, he was shipped to the Philippines. He was discharged as a sergeant nearly 2.5 years later, joining the Vacaville Police Department as a reserve officer while attending Sacramento State University. He joined the CHP in 1977, retiring in early 2010 as an assistant chief. Now, were you in Wairika at that time? Or were you in Sacramento? Bay Area, okay. Lopey also served in the Army Reserve, retiring last year as a colonel. That work took him across the globe, including tours in Haiti, Bosnia, Afghanistan, and Iraq. His children have continued in that public service tradition. John Jr., 28, is an Army infantryman who recently graduated from Fort Benning, Georgia, and now serves in Hawaii. Boy, that's tough duty. I wonder if he knows my son-in-law and my daughter there in Hawaii also. While Christian, 29, works for the CHP in Sacramento as a dispatcher. It's my extreme pleasure to introduce to you Sheriff Jon Lopey.
Thanks, Alan, for those kind words. Thank you very much for being here tonight. And I'd like to thank our tribal officials and everybody from the Happy Camp community that made this event special. And you know, the best part about it is the fact that you took the time to come out and honor veterans. And whether you're a veteran or you're a supporter of a veteran or a spouse, I always thought that I had the easiest job. I deployed 6 times in 15 years to overseas locations, and my lovely wife Maxine back there, I think, had the toughest job because she had to do all the work, and all I had to do is go overseas and focus on the vision. And you loved ones you family members, kids, significant others, wives, husbands, granddaughters, grandsons, and all you other relatives. If you didn't support us, we couldn't do our job. So kudos to you. And I also want to commend these these young men who are doing an outstanding job, and the young women who are doing an outstanding job tonight. Because this is the type of young men, and this one back here, and these other kids that were in this band, these are the kind of kids that grow up to provide those brave men and women who fight for our country. And I can tell you that communities like Happy Camp provide some of the best soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines imaginable. And I remember when I went in the Marine Corps on my 18th birthday, I was from a small community too. And when you hunt and fish and you go to these great schools like we have in Siskiyou County, you make better fighting men and women. You have more discipline, and I'll tell you what, you make the very best servicemen and women imaginable. And there's no doubt about it. So thanks for being here. I've got a prepared speech, but before I get into that, at 2 o'clock this afternoon, for 1,400 servicemen and women, I went to Jackson Street School and up in Wairika, and I gave a little speech. But the young men and women there in the school, and the teachers and administrators, and the parents are just like you here. The best people in the best county anywhere in the world, as far as I'm concerned. And our kids are the very best. So thanks for doing what you're doing, and God bless you. At the end, a bunch of the kids came up and gave me some posters, and I'm going to hang these posters in my office. But this illustrates what I'm talking about. This young girl gave me this. It says, "You are my heroes. You don't know how much this means." Well, for some of you who, like some of us who were in the military during the Vietnam era, this means a lot. And I told this young lady, "You don't know how much I appreciate you for appreciating us." So this is kind of a card to all of you, supporters and veterans and your family members. And this is the kind of kids we have in Happy Camp and places like Jackson Street School. So anyway, I'll get to my speech. Now this is kind of a traumatic week for me, because this week marks the 40th year exactly that I graduated from Marine Corps Boot Camp, MCRD San Diego. And some of those, flashbacks start coming back, and I'm going, man, I had a rougher time at boot camp than I did in combat. And I started thinking about some of those drill instructors and some of that brain damage I suffered by getting ahead and stuff. But it was a great experience, and I think all of you would agree that being in the military, I love the military. I spent almost 38 years in the active and reserves. And why did I love the military? Because of men and women like you. They had honor and commitment, and they were the type of people that you loved being around. And it was a diverse group, all makes and models, but they all had one thing in common. They were there to watch your back, and you could depend on the man or woman on your left or right. It didn't matter where you were. You could depend on them. Like 99.9% of them. So that's kind of the theme of my little speech here. I hope you don't mind me reading this, but I get kind of excited and worked up when I talk about veterans, and I forget stuff, so I got to write it down. Anyway, good evening to all our distinguished guests, and all of you are distinguished, every one of you, because you're here to honor veterans. Distinguished guests, students, teachers, government officials, and we do have some government officials, tribal officials, and Alan Dyer and Tim Grenvick does a great job supporting our veterans. Servicemen and women, veterans, family members, and friends. It is truly a privilege and an honor to be with you today. And by the way, I'm dressed up because Nadine said, you come down to Happy Camp and you're the guest speaker, you dress up for it. I said, okay, I'll dress up. Dress blues. I left my tennis shoes, I did wear my dress shoes. But it is really a privilege and honor being with you tonight, wearing the uniform of the United States Army, which represents the honor, traditions, and service of the armed forces of our great nation and those who have served since our nation's inception. That's all of you. It really doesn't matter whether you're in war or you're in peacetime. You wear this uniform, you're standing on that thin line defending our nation, or at least willing to defend your nation and give your life for it. Because we all love this country. And those of us who've been overseas realize this is the greatest country in the world, and it ever was. Your presence means so much to this great occasion because your presence it doesn't matter whether you're a student, teacher, family member, friend, or veteran, honors our veterans and pays tribute to those who serve or have served this great nation in the active Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, or active or inactive Reserve or National Guard. Although it is impossible to pay adequate homage and tribute to all of you and our heroes in uniform, past or present, in 10 minutes, I'm going to give it a heck of a try. First, you got to face the facts. Freedom isn't free. We got to pay for it. What we have in the greatest nation ever is due to those who have been willing to serve in our military during peacetime and war. And it doesn't matter how you voted well, I guess it does matter how you voted on Tuesday, but the fact of the matter is we got to vote because of men and women like you. Father Dennis Edward O'Brien, a Marine Corps chaplain, said it all. It is the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the soldier, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is the soldier, not the organizer, who has given us the freedom to demonstrate. It is the soldier who salutes the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allows the protester to burn the flag. It is men and women that we honor on Veterans Day, a day we honor all military veterans who have given us all that they have, including the freedom that we all enjoy as Americans. Indeed, despite the efforts of the finest military in the history of mankind, we live in dangerous times. And it doesn't look like it's getting any safer either. Currently, we have over 65,000 men and women serving in Afghanistan, and we have many other servicemen and women serving in numerous stations, both here and abroad. And I'm proud to say that my own son, John Jr., is serving as an infantryman. And he kind of did what I did. He kind of waited, well, I kind of started out early, but yes, I started out as a private. And I may have retired as a colonel, but I started out as a private, and I'm proud of that. And my son is a private E2 infantryman, and I'm as proud of him as if he was a general. Now, he did kind of luck out. He said, oh, I'm going to the 25th Infantry Division. I said, most of those units are in Hawaii. You going to Hawaii? Yeah, I'm going to Hawaii. I said, son, that's better than Fort Hood, Texas, man. You've got to make it. Although he is supposed to deploy next year. Since 9/11/2001, our nation's military and their families have sacrificed through 11 years of continuous war. And another thing is, I don't know how many times I've been places like Fort Benning, Georgia, or Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and you're in the line at the PX, and you see a 19-year-old kid with a wife and maybe a couple little kids, and that trooper has a prosthetic limb. And he's limping along, and I said, you know what? I may have thought I had a bad day, but you know what? After seeing what some of these soldiers are doing, hey, I think I'm having a good day every day. 28% of those amputees, at least in the Army, 28% of them are staying in the service. They may be missing an arm or missing a leg, but they're staying because they want to serve their nation. When I was in Iraq, we had wounded warriors that returned. Some of them were missing both legs. We had a ranger missing both arms. We had a soldier that was blinded, who is, by the way, working as an instructor at West Point. And you know what each of them said? Do you have, you know, when somebody asked them, if you have any regrets, you know what they said? The only regret I have that I can't pack my rucksack again, grab my rifle, and go back with my fellow soldiers, sailors, or airmen or Marines overseas. That's where I want to be in combat with my brothers and sisters. And I said, you know, we got a new greatest generation in the works. Since 9/11, 2001, the United States has lost well over 4,400 men and women in Iraq and over 2,100 men and women in Afghanistan, and we got almost 50,000 wounded over there. And California has sacrificed the most servicemen killed and wounded during this global war on terrorism. So communities like Happy Camp have given more than their share in this current conflict. Thousands of our brave men and women have been awarded medals for valor in this current war against global terrorism. Some of those service members are from Siskiyou County. 10 Americans have earned the nation's highest award for valor, the Medal of Honor, during this current war. Of all the medals of honor that have been awarded in our nation's history, we only have 81 living recipients of the Medal of Honor. We have a greatest generation, those World War II veterans, and one time we had something like 12 million men and women serving under arms. And right now, they're fading away fast. 1,500 veterans approximately are dying every day, and 1,200 of those are World War II veterans. So the message in that is, you know a veteran, we got some World War II veterans in this group tonight, or Korean War veterans, Vietnam, it doesn't matter whether they served in war or peace. If they're veterans, you thank them, because we may not have another chance. Currently, there are about 21.9 million living veterans in the United States of America. 3.3 million of our veterans live with service-connected disabilities. 5.5 million total veterans live with disabilities. There are currently 9 million veterans living that are 65 years of age or older. 2.3 million veterans are still alive from World War II, only about 10% of the original number. 2.7 million survived from the Korean War and 5.56 million from peacetime service. Nearly 34% of our veterans in the war against terrorism will suffer from some degree of post-traumatic stress disorder, and many have suffered from other injuries such as traumatic brain disorder. There are 7.6 million Vietnam-era veterans still alive, and they comprise 35% of all living veterans. Less than 805,000 Vietnam veterans who actually served in Vietnam are alive today. Indeed, our veterans have always made a difference for our great nation. Martin Luther King once said, "If a man hasn't discovered something he is willing to die for, then he is not fit to live." In Vietnam, 58,200 men and women were killed and 304,000 wounded. That is about a 10% of the force. 75,000 were severely disabled, 5,283 lost limbs, and 1,081 suffered multiple amputations. Of those killed in Vietnam, 61% were less than 21 years old. 11,465 of those killed were less than 20. 5 fighting men in Vietnam were 16 years old. Obviously fudged on the paperwork to get in. Despite these sobering casualty figures and incredible hardships, like their World War II counterparts, 85% of Vietnam veterans successfully transitioned to civilian life. 91% of Vietnam veterans say they are glad they served. And almost 90% of the American people hold Vietnam veterans in high esteem. Finally, the American people are recognizing what those great men and women did. Truly, the gallant men and women that are fighting this global war on terror, and veterans of all wars are representatives of the true value of our armed forces and the valor our servicemen and women have exhibited on battlefields or training grounds since the beginning of our nation. Veterans exemplify the duty, honor, and service which makes the United States of America special. Calvin Coolidge once said, "The nation which forgets its defenders will itself be forgotten." We have the opportunity today to reflect on our military veterans and the price they and their families have paid for our freedom and the hardships we have avoided because of their courage, commitment, sacrifice, and eternal vigilance. 42 million men and women have served in the armed forces throughout our history. Over 1 million of our service members have been lost in our nation's wars and conflicts. I would like to think that these men and women, and those of you who have served, have done something very special for our nation and the oppressed around the world. America has served as the shining light in an often dark world, a force for good, a force for peace, and a force for positive change. Senator Robert F. Kennedy once said, "It is from numberless diverse acts of courage and belief that human history is shaped. Each time a person stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. That ripple builds others. Those ripples, crossing each other from a million different centers of energy, build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and injustice." What is the debt to our servicemen and women, especially those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for freedom? Overseas and stateside, I have continuously witnessed the intelligence, courage, determination, skill, loyalty, and unwavering commitment and heroism of our fine servicemen and women, time and time again. Supporting our troops and their families is a debt we owe them, and a debt we owe to all of you. Marine Corps General Ray Davis, a World War II Korean and Vietnam veteran, once said, he was a recipient of the Navy Cross in World War II and the Medal of Honor during the Chosun Reservoir campaign in Korea. He said, "We have come to more fully appreciate the one common golden thread which runs through all our war experiences. Their gallantry in combat, their compassion for the victims of war, their support of families and communities at home, and their constant patriotism and loyalty. They, and this is a message to you, all you veterans, you are a major force for good. You are a national treasure for America." So next time someone gives you some flack, just tell them, "Hey, look, I'm a treasure, man. Go somewhere else." Theodore Roosevelt once said, "A man who is good enough to shed his blood for his country is good enough to be given a square deal afterwards." Indeed, our veterans deserve a square deal and all the honor, respect, admiration, gratitude, and homage we can bestow upon them and their families. We owe a debt to all veterans because veterans honor the United States of America, our flag, and our Constitution. Veterans have fought and died to keep us free. Veterans' sacrifices make this country and this world safer and a better place. Veterans set a selfless example of service, patriotism, and valor for all to follow. Veterans have always been brave when others have faltered. Veterans help ignite and renew the beacon of light for the lost and oppressed. Veterans shoulder, and I might add veterans and their families, shoulder the burden of physical, mental, and emotional wounds of combat. Veterans have always been and continue to be the glue which binds our nation's foundation. Veterans show us all what integrity, duty, honor, strength, fidelity, valor, and what the definition of a celebrity or a hero really should be in the United States of America. And veterans and their families are the very best our nation has to offer, hands down. Now let us now, above all other human endeavors, value and honor the sacrifices of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guard, active reserve and National Guard for all they have done for so many, here and abroad. Let us now remember the cost paid by others to make us free. Plato once said, "Only the dead will see the end of war." Let us hope and pray that peace comes quickly to our nation. But the lessons of history dictate that Plato is probably right. I thank God every day that we have always had a military that has kept us safe and veterans who have provided the heart, soul, muscle, and sinew which has always made our nation great. Ronald Reagan once said, "Above all, we must realize that no arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have." In other words, America is special because of our fighting men and women and those who support it. The moral courage of the free men and women of our military, our veterans and our military and their families stand on that thin line between war and peace and on that thin line between protection versus total destruction. You, our veterans, have always stood for duty, honor, country, and service. As long as we have a military and veterans like you to light the path in this world, there will always be freedom, security, hope, and justice for all of us. Thank you for bestowing on me an honor to be with you, you heroes, tonight. Thank you for allowing me to be with you to honor all veterans. It has been a distinct honor and privilege being with you. Thank you for taking the time to be here to honor veterans and their sacrifices and the sacrifices of their families, because that's what our nation is all about. God bless you. God bless all our servicemen and women, all veterans, their families, patriots, supporters, and God bless America. Thank you very much.